So have you been to Atlantic City a bunch of times with the band? Are you familiar with it? Or?
Oh, of course, yeah. We played Atlantic City several times over the course of our career. It's a great, it's obviously a great area. A lot of cool hotels and casinos and all that stuff to visit. So, yeah, we look forward to going back there. It's going to be great.
Are you a big gambler yourself?
No, I'm a kind of a casual kind of, guy. I go in with about $100 or so, and my whole motive for that is how long can I be entertained and hang in there? You know what I mean? If I'm playing blackjack or roulette or something, the way I look at it is, if I can spend a couple of hours, with this $100 and hanging in there, that's pretty cheap entertainment for me. I mean, you can watch a show at, in Vegas or any of these places and probably cost you $200 a ticket. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just about kind of having fun and seeing how, that's kind of my game plan is like, I don't want to $100 in 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right. So, tell me about the new tour. I understand you're doing the live version of the Countdown to Extinction album, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's something we've played several shows doing this now, and the reaction has been very positive. We have a great time doing it. There's a lot of really cool visual stuff that's going on during the whole course of the show now, which is actually something we really never extended before.
How is it for you then to be playing this, like the whole album? I'm sure you've played tracks from it before, but did you have to kind of like learn some of the songs for the first time, or what's the experience like for you?
Yeah, well, certainly. We played several songs from that album. Probably about half the album that we played over the course of time. Some songs have never been played live, so I think it was all a matter of all of us kind of going back and rehashing and getting refamiliarized with some of these tunes. This is one of my favorite, as a fan of Megadeth, prior to joining the band, this was one of my favorite records, Countdown to Extinction. So I was certainly very familiar with a lot of the songs on that record. So for me, it was definitely a lot of fun going back and, getting reacquainted with those songs that I haven't heard in a while, and they certainly never played. So it was definitely a fun experience to get all that going again. So they're all great songs. That's the thing about this record, the thing about Countdown, and it's such a cohesive record. It's just such a very solid and to the point record. It was a lot of fun to play those songs and songs I hadn't played.
And when you approach the songs, are you doing the album version, or is there some room to open them up a little bit or change them? Or we try to keep it very, very close to the record. Of course there's a couple little live things we can do endings for a song here and there, but really, by and large, for the most part, we try to keep the live versions of the songs as close to the original as possible. And now, also, you guys are heading back to the studio soon, right? You're going to do a number 14 is in the works already? Is that right?
Yeah, we're actually kind of getting material gathered. We're all submitting material. There's all kinds of ideas bouncing around.
Mm-hmm.
Dave never has a shortage of musical ideas, so we're actually in the midst of kind of doing that now, just kind of, listening to what we have and starting to make choices upon which riffs and which songs to put together. So it's, we're definitely really busy with, between the touring and getting prepared to do another record next year. We certainly have no shortage of work to do. So it's good to stay busy like this.
And this is going to be a much shorter time than between albums, because I think between the last two there was a bit of a gap, right? So you're kind of trying to ramp up the recording a little bit quicker this time, or?
Usually it's kind of a couple of years between records. Now this, we're going to, like I said, we're going to kind of begin January, to really start honing down and getting everything going. What the release date will be, I'm not really sure. So really, if you look at it, just say the record, theoretically came out in the summer,
right,
of 2014. So it would almost be, 2 years, a little more than 2 years or whatever, since our previous record. So we try to keep on par with that. You don't want to wait too long. The fans don't want to wait that long in between records. So we try to keep it cranked up pretty good and going on a consistent basis in terms of releasing new.
I also read that, that since
Dave Mustaine has become, a born-again Christian, that some of the songs in the past that the band would play are no longer sort of in the mix as much. I mean, is that true? Have you sort of moderated the material at all? Or, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of dark stuff that's still being performed, so I'm just curious as to whether there's, that's true.
Honestly, the only really one song that Dave is not comfortable with playing is a song from Peace Self's record called The Conjuring. It's just, the subject matter is lyrically speaking, it's very dark, and he's just not comfortable with singing that kind of stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. And I respect that. I mean, ironically, it's one of my favorite songs. It's not because of the subject matter. I really couldn't care less. It's certainly one of my favorite tracks. It's just such a great song. But you have to respect that. If somebody's not comfortable with doing something, it's not right to force somebody into doing something they're not comfortable doing. So I totally respect that. And but other than that, honestly, we pretty much anything out of our catalog we can pull out and play. But that's that one song he's just not comfortable with playing. And so there you go.
I was reading about some of the shows you've done, this summer, and I see Dave's been making some fairly strong political comments, and I'm curious, too, about how the band feels about sort of that, the in-between talk between the songs, or is it sort of everyone gets to say what they want to say, or how does that work?
I just think that was something that was spur of the moment. The song Holy Wars is obviously about, holy wars and stuff, and sometimes... Right. And it's just that, Dave just kind of wings it sometimes, and that came out for whatever reason, and things have been said by many bands and all that kind of stuff, but it just so happens that somebody was videotaping it, and some website got a hold of it, and then it just blew up into this big, huge thing, and it's like, I really didn't think anything of it at the time, but it's turned into this, this thing in the media and the press up, but, things like that happen. People say stuff that maybe someone doesn't agree with, and so there you go. But there was no harm intended, obviously. But something that he had said, and that was his viewpoint on at that given time. So
right.
that's I really didn't really have nothing else to say about that other than that. If something was said, and
right.
There was no harm intended, but it just kind of got blown up the press. But that happens every day. You can look up something in the press today, or somebody said, or somebody did. It's not like this is a new occurrence, and for an entertainer. So
he's not necessarily speaking for the band, then he's sort of speaking for himself.
No, it's just something that no, not at all. He doesn't speak for the band on things like that. That was his personal viewpoint at that time, and so there you go. No, nothing. Didn't represent the band as a whole.
I also wanted to ask you too about the Megadeth sort of relationship with other sort of metal bands. I mean, there's kind of has been a healthy rivalry with some other bands, but you've also toured with Slayer. So what's the state of things? I mean, is there any trash talking going on? Is it more collegial, or how do you see other metal bands?
No, all that stuff, all that hogwash is definitely a thing of the past. That that things have been said, in years past and stuff. All that's water under the bridge. We toured we toured with Slayer, of course. We did the Big Four with Megadeth, Slayer, Metallica, and Anthrax, and the camaraderie was fantastic, as a matter of fact. So all that stuff, is stuff rehashed from a lot of journalists who, something that could have been said 25, 26, 27 years ago. You know what I mean? It just certainly with the Big Four. I mean, that was such a celebration of four bands finally coming together after all these years and doing it several shows. The reaction was amazing, and the whole vibe was such a positive vibe. We all had a very great time doing that. So there's definitely no bad blood anywhere as far as I'm concerned at all.
Do you think you'd do that again then, a big tour like that?
I would love to do it again. Whether that ever happens again remains to be seen. I haven't heard anything, but anything is possible at any given time. As you come to find out. So I certainly do hope that does happen at some point, but I haven't heard any rumblings about it at this point.
And so as far as the band is coming up the rest of the year, so you're finishing out the tour and then head into the studio, get in the studio next year. Is that kind of what's on the plate for you guys?
That seems like the game plan. I mean, like you said, we're gonna do this American leg of the Countdown to Extinction anniversary, and obviously take the rest of the year off for the holidays with the family and so forth, and really focusing on the next record. Unless I hear otherwise, I haven't heard anything to the contrary of that.